the Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the more interesting teams in the NBA right now. So they've been at the top of the league, and I'm going to ask you about what you've seen from them first, but starting specifically with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I feel like he's one of the best players in the league, and he gets talked about at times, but he doesn't really get the credit he deserves. So what have you seen from the Thunder and specifically Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Man, Shai has been nothing short of MVP caliber. Obviously that's a tough award to get with guys like Jokic and Embiid in this league, but he's putting up 36 and 6 on incredible efficiency. His ability to control the pace in the game at all times, for somebody who's 25 years old, is crazy that he's that old. I thought he was like 23, but he's been doing this for a while, and it shouldn't come as a surprise. This team is just taking the next step due to some other players on this team that we'll get to. But Shai's just been doing what he's been doing, man. And it's truly beautiful to see him control pace in the game. Very similar way to, other superstar players in the league. I feel like he's never really brought up as a superstar amongst like regular people or non regular NBA fans or whatever you call casuals. But man, he's been sensational. Getting to the rim, shooting the jumpers, the pull-ups are there. His vision is good. He's handling in pick and roll. He's guarding 1 through 4. I know that's not something that gets talked about. I think he's leading the NBA in steals over 2.5 a game. Just truly sensational on both ends of the court from Shai Gilgeous. And now the Thunder are winning, so more eyes are on them,
And so something I want to give Shai credit for, first of all, going all the way back to how he even got to OKC. If you remember the middle of the night trade, the Paul George to the Clippers and like all this and whatever it is. Shai, I wouldn't say was an afterthought, but it was all right. It was sort of the Thunder might have gotten fleeced aside from these picks. Like it was like Shai could be pretty good, but we don't know yet. And what he's become is just something totally like I watched a few games. I caught up on them the last couple of days, and I don't know how you guard him. There's a reason he scores that much because one, his first step is insane. He gets to the paint. I don't know about this year, but I know for sure last year he got to the paint among like at the top of the league.
Yep.
With him being a guard at that. And so on top of that this year, even if you do manage to try to stop him at the paint, if you foul him, he's shooting 94% from the free throw line.
Crazy.
94% from the free throw line. You back up off him. He's taking more threes this year. I believe he's at 4 attempts now.
A little less than
36%. Yeah, a little less than 4% at 36%. And so you have to deal with that in the mid-range. You have to deal with his pull-up, which is pretty deadly. And if you bite on that pump fake, he's going to draw that foul, and that goes right back to the 94%. And so he's unguardable already, not to mention the defense on the other end. But with all those offensive attributes I've mentioned, he's also teamed up with one of the better rookies I've seen in years. And before we even get to that, there was a point in the offseason throughout all the Wemby hype, and I'm not taking anything away from Wemby. Wemby's incredible. We'll talk about him one day. But there was a point in time where I just like the light switch, the light bulb came on. And I was like, wait a minute. Chet Holmgren is in OKC and he hasn't played yet. Let's see what he does. And I believe you have some numbers on him that you can pull up while I mention just his dynamic with SGA. Because like I said, with all the things I mentioned SGA brings to the table as far as scoring goes, if you put him in pick and roll or pick and pop or whatever it is with Chet Holmgren, you're definitely not stopping that. Because Chet Holmgren right now, and via Frankie Garcia, who's not here today, Chet Holmgren is shooting 50% on catch and shoot threes this year, first of all. So if you pop and you already have to deal with SGA, it's best for you to just be in a drop, I guess, because he's going to get to the basket. But now you got Chet, who's not missing threes. You also have Chet, who's just this incredible roller, despite all the criticism he got for his size, which is usually something I don't really agree with, because you don't want to bulk up too much and lose your fluidity if you're a Chet, if you're a Wemby. You may want to get a little stronger, but we saw it with Dirk in his career where he got a little too big and he wasn't as effective, and he slimmed down and got back to Dirk. And so I want to know what you've thought about Chet, because I just don't see any weaknesses right now.
Man, so it's super exciting because I'm the draft guy. So I scout 50, 60 players every year. And last year when I came across Chet, the first thing I saw was defensive player of the year. Like, like this guy could be defensive player of the year as a rookie before he stepped onto an NBA court. His feel on both offense and particularly on defense because of his length, but his ability to just be everywhere at the same time, it's truly fascinating to watch. And he doesn't foul, which is another very, very it's something rookies tend to struggle with, but he's always very composed. The most impressive thing by him has been, I think he has an edge to him. I love the man. He has this like he doesn't give a shit mentality, and he doesn't back down. And it's truly something beautiful to watch. He's third amongst the NBA right now in defensive rating for a player, fifth in stocks, fifth in blocks, like just everywhere. And particularly the game I want to kind of talk about was he had a marquee matchup against Joel Embiid. This doesn't mean that they were guarding each other at all times. We know Chet still has some of his deficiencies due to that weight, so obviously, but OKC is using him in ways where they just kind of floating him.
Right.
And man, the team rotates behind him and they just let him be that roamer, much like the Celtics did with Robert Williams for a couple seasons. And he's truly just so dynamic in that role. He knows when to help. He knows when to jump. He knows when to dig. Just does a phenomenal job. And if that shot is looking how it's been looking, man, it would not shock me. Like this, he's right now, if the season was to end today, he's rookie of the year. Sorry.
Yeah, easily.
And that's no, like you said, it's no discredit to Wemby, man. But what he's been doing with this team, he currently has, not just him, but due to his arrival, the Thunder are 6th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating, and they're 2nd in the NBA in net rating, only behind the Vegas odds-on favorites to win the chip, the Boston Celtics.
Man, and I'm glad you mentioned some of the things that goes into being a roamer on defense, because it sounds a lot simpler than it actually is. There's a lot of reads you have to make, and a lot of guys relying on you. And the thing that impresses me the most with Chet, it's not a situation where he's just long, and so if he's out of place, his length makes up for it. He's always in the right place. He's always on time with his rotations. And a key thing, because we see the block shots numbers, and again, that's not just length, because there's, at his age, to be able to not jump at pump fakes, he just does not fall for pump fakes. He waits for the offensive player to leave the floor, and then he goes up and blocks the shot. And that's why he doesn't foul as much. And so just seeing that, seeing his, I'm not saying just go switch him on to Kyrie and let him, like, I'm not saying that, but his mobility on that end also. And that's part of why I say he shouldn't bulk up too much, because he's able to just move around and not necessarily switch, but help over here, dig over here, like you said. And it's just so impressive to see somebody that big, first of all, but also that young, because that just doesn't come easily. That's something where you just know he's been coached well his whole life.
Yeah, you can tell he just, like I said, the IQ stands out, man. And his ability to, like you said, it's not like he's going to be in an island guarding one, ISOs and stuff, but his ability to be versatile defensively, to be a roamer, to play and drop, to play at the level, to blitz when he has to, all these things, along with some of the players that OKC has paired him with at the point of attack, like guys like Lou Dort, who's been nothing short of great on defense. Cason Wallace taking him in the draft this year. Shout out to the rookie. He's been really good. J-Dub, who they didn't play against Philly, but man, they could have used him. Just this whole team, it's rounding out, and it's a genuine question for you, Kenny, if you don't mind me asking. How far do you truly think this team can go?
I think experience may get in the way of them getting to the conference finals, depending on who they get matched up with. I still don't like anybody's chances against Denver, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, it's because, and I'm so glad you brought it up this way, because I did want to get into their role players and how important role players are in the NBA.
sure.
Because they don't have the big names, and so you may look at SGA and look at Chet and be like, all right, they're carrying these, for lack of a better term, bums. But no, what happens is you depend on certain guys for scoring, and then everybody else just has to fill in with certain things. So, for example, an extreme example would be the Phoenix Suns, right? You have KD, you have Book, you have Bradley Beal. Those guys are going to get the majority of the shots, right? But you still have to, if it's a 10-man rotation, there's still 7 guys who have to contribute to winning. And so putting that back with OKC, yeah, you have Chet, yes, you have SGA, but the defense has been the key to their success with this team. And that's not just Chet, and that's not just SGA, because SGA is an improved defender, but he didn't come into the league known as a defender. He wasn't known as a defender last season. But what happens is you put him with even a rookie like Case and Wallace. You put him with, you mentioned J Dub, but also J Will. Kenrich Williams is getting minutes. Like they have guys dedicated to locking up. And another thing that's really important in the playoffs is shot making. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked at this. Isaiah Joe is probably leading the league in 3-point percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
He has been, his resurgence since he's been on the Oklahoma City Thunder has been truly sensational. Yeah, he's shooting 48.5% from 3 on 6 attempts a game.
And you know why that's so dangerous? Because again, like, I view basketball as it's not just stars, and it's puzzle pieces you put together, right? And so when we mentioned at the start of the show, SGA's ability to get to the basket, him being able to drive and kick to a 48% 3-point shooter, or him running a pick and roll with Chet, and the defense you have to send multiple. That can't be a 2-on-2 game. SGA Chet, that can't be 2-on-2. So then you have a 48% 3-point shooter in the corner or on a wing or an opposite wing or wherever. It's just like this team, like I'm saying, I don't know how far they can get this year, but if they stay together, this is a dangerous, dangerous team.
Yeah, this team is, and I'm glad you brought up guys like Kenrich Williams. He's in my top 5 Lou players of, who don't get credit. Like, I love the way he plays. Truly, they missed him because he was hurt to kind of start the season. But him being a connective piece, both offensively and defensively, him being able to take against the Sixers, he took the Embiid matchup. Let Chet kind of roam on defense. He was switched on to guys like Tobias, and he does whatever it takes essentially to truly impact the game on both ends. Like, and to your point, man, this is a young team, but I will say in the playoffs, it always comes down to, can you compose yourself? And I will not bet against Shai if that's the case. I do think they're a piece away, particularly maybe a bigger rotation player, kind of a forward/5 kind of guy. Curious to see what they do. They have 39,000 picks. I don't know what they're going to do with them. I'm curious to see who they're going to keep and who they're going to move on from, because I don't think this team is a star away. I think they're a very good role player away.
And I'm glad I didn't even think about the picks they have. Like, for them to already be this good and have all that in the chamber, so whenever they do need to make a move, who's denying them? Like, if it's some rebuilding team that a really good player just doesn't fit at anymore, and they need picks, who is a better team to work with than the OKC Thunder right now?
Yeah, they can outbid whoever they want for whoever they want, essentially.
Man, that front office just, I'll have to give them credit. Sam Presti, he's done just such an incredible, and the recovery from getting rid of the Hall of Famers in the earlier, the Russell Westbrook, the recovery from that, and the recovery from getting rid of Russell Westbrook and Paul George at the same time, and people having these questions. And to have a team this good, because rebuilds usually take like 10 years. And to be this good already, I think the Paul George trade happened in 2019, 2020, or something like that?
Yeah.
And they're already this good again. Man, hats off to Sam Presti. He's just done just a phenomenal job out there.